All right, guys. So, uh, Star Wars Theory has he's released his manifesto, or he's exposing, I think the journalist from Forbes, Paul Tassi. Um, so I've been following this saga. My basic opinion up to this point is that I disagree. I've disagreed with a lot of stuff that Star Wars Theory has said, just in the videos that I've reacted to on this channel. I think he says a lot of dumb things sometimes. But do I think he deserves to be demonetized? No. Do I think that any of the other people in the whole Star Wars explained, fiasco deserve to be demonetized? No. I don't think that Nerdrotics or Ryan Kinnell or those fucking guys, I don't think they necessarily deserve to be demonetized, or at the very least, I think that Star Wars Explained didn't do a good job of showing what they deem demonetizable. So basically, I think that all the people trying to cancel people over Star Wars are stupid. All you need to do is do what I'm doing. I watch the video and I either say, "Hey, that's stupid," or "Hey, I agree with that," and that's it. I don't think there's enough of that in the world where people just listen to what the other guy says and then they respond to it. It's all just people taking everybody out of context and trying to end their careers or whatever. It's all just really dumb, but makes for good entertainment. So let's see what Star Wars Theory has to say. Because I will say, in the last thing that I watched, where Star Wars Theory was reacting to this article that Forbes wrote, and I do think he was incredibly unhinged in that in that video, where it's just this article. It was an article about where they were saying that Disney should make a live action Clone Wars show with Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen, and Star Wars Theory was like, "That was my idea. I came up with that. You stole that idea from me." And I was like, "It's like, what the fuck? You can't take ownership over that." As if that's some inventive genius idea that, oh my god, he's the only one that's ever thought of that. I thought he was very unhinged in his last article, but I did say that it's possible that maybe that it also seemed like they had some kind of prior beef, and maybe Paul Tassi has just said a bunch of out of line stuff that has riled up Star Wars Theory. So I think that's what we're gonna learn here. So let's just hit play. Paul Tassi writes for Forbes as a journalist. Well, he's already messing up because he's supposed to put journalist in quotes. Star Wars Theory is already messing up, but anyways. He has written slanderous articles about me both on Forbes and on his personal social media. Well, is he writing articles on his personal social media, or is he just talking about tweets? Completely unprovoked, I feel Paul continued to harass me to his many followers, both personally and on publicized Forbes articles to the world in what I believe is bad faith. Oh ho 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 ho. He has now moved on to play the victim card with Molly. They seem to find it funny. That is admittedly a kind of funny video title. Less funny are people putting whiny, aggressive comments on family photos on my Instagram every time this happens. You too, huh? Seems all the mass death threats and attempts to deplatform myself and others from Molly and more, which he advocates for in his Forbes articles. Okay, so that's interesting. Hopefully we'll see that. Are acceptable to them. They ask us to denounce this and blame us to control millions of people, yet they are silent when it happens to us. Seems they even encourage it with their harassment. I don't advocate harassment or violence of anyone, myself included. Seems their side who sends it doesn't care. So based on what he's saying here, he's going to have to provide evidence of them actually sending out, telling people to do death threats or whatever. So we'll see if he actually provides those receipts. Or not necessarily death threats, but actually sending people to go out and harass people. Sorry, doesn't have to be death threats. In my opinion, Paul is a liar and a poor excuse for a quote-unquote journalist. There you go, Theory. You're getting better here. I believe it's his intention to lie and defame me in his Forbes articles, which will be presented to my legal team for further action. All right, so he's continuing on with this whole thing that he's going to start suing Paul Tassi. I don't know that I believe that. I don't know that I believe that that's going to go anywhere, just because suing for defamation is just like a really hard thing to do. At least from my understanding, I'm not a lawyer. So we'll see if this actually happens. But my bet is that I don't think anything is actually going to happen. This video exposes his lies, bad faith journalism, and slanderous remarks. Maybe someday, these bullies will take accountability for their harassment of people who express their right of criticizing movies and shows. Sounds wild, I know. Until then, I will continue to respectfully and non-violently call them out, for their lies and disgusting tactics need to stop.
Saw someone say, is this your Sith era theory?
This is based. He's on his vigilante arc. He's gonna stop the slanderous journalists or whatever.
And I'm like, when did it become okay to constantly berate someone for years, and then if you answer back, it's your Sith era? No, that's just standing up for yourself or replying. That's literally all it is. You know, if you're provoked, I think it's fair game to be able to say your piece back. So anyways, that's what I did in the recent video. Essentially just talking about Clone Wars returning in live action, which I think would be pretty dope. But of course, this guy, the Forbes guy, Paul Tassi, goes ahead and makes another tweet. Use incognito mode for porn. I use it to check on channels that make videos of...
Use incognito mode. Well, to be fair, again, he's going to talk about his history. But in this instance, Paul Tassi wrote this article. In this article, Paul Tassi never mentioned Star Wars Theory. And then Star Wars Theory responded to that article talking a whole bunch of shit. And then this is the tweet that he wrote. So in this instance, I'm not saying Paul Tassi hasn't like unprovokedly shit talked you before. But in this instance, you're the one that shit talked him. Like you weren't responding to him talking about you. You just like you started reading his article and then started bringing up your old beef without actually explaining what that beef was in a way that made you seem unhinged.
About me that I do not want in my algorithm. Well, thanks anyways for the view, man. And his comments are just, well, they speak for themselves. Anyways, that video was an opener to the real video, which I'm glad you're now all familiar with him. So this is, I would say, part of the problem. I would say essentially this is kind of where all this rhetoric leads to when it comes to trying to deplatform people, which is a scumbag move anyways, weak move from Molly and Alex and everyone else that was part of that. But this kind of journalism is really what is setting the narrative for the weak-minded people who just kind of follow the sheep. And I believe that it's just not helpful. I think there's a lot of gatekeeping in this kind of journalism, which we're going to get into right here, and it just needs to stop, I think. I think we need to have better writers or people who have maybe more of an open mind or aren't so set to just one sect of a certain fandom and are able to see things from maybe a little bit more of a logical and reasonable perspective that maybe some people just don't like things because it's not true to Star Wars in their opinion. It doesn't make them wrong, it just means that they have a certain outlook of something. So on September 9th, Paul Tassi released a...
The Acolyte has caused Star Wars fandom to plunge into civil war.
Article called The Acolyte has caused Star Wars fandom to plunge into civil war, which, yeah, I think that's kind of accurate in a sense. However, he goes on to mention me and... So
okay. Do I need to... I think I need to read that article. You know what? I'm going to read it. I should definitely read it. All right. The Acolyte has caused Star Wars fandom to plunge into civil war. You think the drama of The Acolyte is over? Think again, as now what has been arguments about content of the show has progressed into a full-on civil war in the Star Wars fandom community. The two parties are fans that appreciate shows like The Acolyte and did not appreciate what seemed to be a coordinated, relentless assault on the show and its actors by YouTubers and their subscribers. So here's the thing. So, again, I'm stopping here. That's not necessarily wrong. Like, there absolutely was a coordinated attack on the show and on the people that were involved in the show, right? Like I hold on, let me see if I can pull this up. So like if we look at Nerdrotic's little review here of Agatha All Along, he put Leslie Headland in the thumbnail. Like what does Leslie Headland even have to do with with Agatha All Along? But it's because what a lot of these anti-woke YouTubers do, and I'm sorry, but they do this, is that they don't go so far as to just say that, like, hey, this show is bad and I don't like it. They go so far as to try to, like, demonize the creatives behind it, which, in my opinion, is going a little far. Like, that's just fucked up, in my opinion. Now, again, to be clear, do I think that they deserve to be demonetized because of that? No. But I just don't think that that's reasonable to do. You know, I'm not especially the biggest fan of like maybe what Zack Snyder has done with his did with his DC movies, but like I don't like constantly demonize Zack Snyder in my content. Like I'm not gonna review like I don't know uh the Lord of the Rings, the Rings of Power, and like put Zack Snyder in the thumbnail to like continue demonizing him into all of my other critiques or whatever. Like, but like I'm just saying that like what Paul Tassi said there, that's not untrue. Even though some of you guys might deny it, it's just not wrong. So, anyways, continuing reading. They are attempting to demonetize many of those accounts which they believe are racist or encourage targeted harassment campaigns. The other side says they simply hate the show for normal reasons. I mean, this is also true, right? And, you know, I personally don't think that they should be demonetized. So we'll see if he says an opinion about this. The saga of the Acolyte is well known at this point. The show was little watched, but developed a core base of fans who really liked it, ranging from its representations, a black lead, and an Asian heartthrob as its villain, to its storyline split from the Skywalker saga by several hundred years. The YouTubers in question devoted dozens, if not hundreds, of videos dedicating to tearing down the show and everyone associated with it each and every week, which led to not just pushback from Acolyte fans, but stars like Amandla Stenberg publicly talking about the racism she experienced. And it's just like this is just true. Like, and this is my whole thing, right? Is like, I just wish people would be like honest about what they're doing. They absolutely target the people involved in the show. Like, they just did that. And they continue to do it. And they absolutely try to tear them down. And I just don't think that I just don't think that that's a cool thing to do, right? Talk about the show, talk about what you like or dislike about the show. And if you especially feel the need to like bring up the people involved, maybe talk about why you dislike, you know, the way that they tell stories. And like, if you really need to do that, maybe like, sure, I guess, but like the extent to which they go, I mean, I just think it's excessive. But again, like, this is just true. And maybe you think that it's fine that they do that. That's great. But don't try and act like it doesn't happen. I guess that's all I would say. Then the show was canceled, given that Disney is, well, Disney. The decision likely came down to mainly an absurdly high cost, which was very much Disney's fault, and low viewership. Though many, including some of the cast, credited the racism and harassment and felt it gave a win to toxic parts of the fandom. And yeah, I mean, this is also true, right? Like, the show was way too expensive and it got low viewership. Now, again, can you blame can you blame the racist harassment that, you know, as to why it gained low viewership? It's like, I don't think so. Like, at the end of the day, people either watched or didn't watch it. You know, like I don't think, like, and people harassing Amandla Stenberg or whatever, like, you can't blame normal people not watching your show on that, because most normal people that just casually like Star Wars, I don't think they care about that, right? Like, they just were not interested in The Acolyte because it just wasn't a very interesting show. So that's my perspective. Okay, now we enter the current phase, which went: members of the Star Wars community in support of shows like The Acolyte and its actors banded together to create a movement to try and get a number of specific Star Wars channels demonetized, with examples of what they believe was racism and harassment in their videos, which should be against YouTube's terms of service. Okay, so we got some tweets here. Hello, at Team YouTube. The Star Wars community would be at the very least appreciate a formal response or update in regards to our well-documented and pressing concerns. Yeah, and then YouTube was like, thanks for reaching out. Just heard back and confirmed that you guys are pussy-ass bitches and that this content is not violative and will remain up. Totally understand you may not agree with this decision, but I reviewed this video very carefully against our policies. Okay, however, once YouTube itself was tagged, The concept was met with an immediate reply 13 minutes later from YouTube that they reviewed the video in question and found that it was not in violation and no actions would be taken. This was celebrated immediately by the targeted YouTubers in question, though further investigation reveals this is a pretty generic YouTube auto message which has been used hundreds of times before, and there's no evidence that YouTube took the quite elaborate movement seriously for more than a few minutes or did anything resembling investigation. I mean, that's probably true, to be fair. It's like it is true, right, that like it would obviously take more than 13 minutes for YouTube to actually investigate it. But in my opinion, it's like it's not even a thing worth investigating. That's just my perspective. It was likely just a bot scraping a video, and what video that It was likely just a bot scraping a video, and what video that even was isn't even clear. Oh, okay. The one embedded on Twitter. That level of abruptness and lack of diligence is not very surprising. Since this happened, fans have now pointed toward people moving on to comment on a black actor's Instagram that they want the acolyte treatment, viewing that as a threat to mount a similar movement. What is he referring to here? I don't know what he's referring to here. Oh, I guess this is it. Y'all really want the acolyte treatment, don't you? Oh Lord, gather around and give this man a hug. Come, everyone, drop a hug. Yeah, I mean, okay. So this is where I'm gonna say that this Paul Tassi guy is being kind of retarded here. Like, I don't think that like I guess he's like kind of trying to say that YouTube has now set the precedent that, oh, the whole acolyte treatment is now acceptable, and it's like, unfortunately, I think it kind of should be. Like yes, it sucks, and I think that most of the people that go after specific people involved, I personally think they're being excessive, and I think a lot of like the criticisms are just stupid, but I think it should still be allowed to exist, you know. And I guess to be fair, Paul Tassi hasn't called out, he has not taken the stance that anybody should get demonetized. Paul Tassi himself has not done that here. But it's just like he's basically trying to like make the argument that like YouTube is now given the okay for this type of treatment, and it's like yeah, but that's not a bad thing, because I don't think that people should be silenced in that way. Like, even if I think it's excessive to hate on a public figure, unfortunately, like when you make content and you put it out, whether it's a TV show or you make a YouTube video, like it's fine for people to critique it. You know what I mean? So the YouTuber side of this has escalated thanks to Star Wars Theory, the largest Star Wars fan channel on the internet, who has been the frequent centerpiece of what is viewed as the toxic part of the fandom. Theory also constantly bashed the Acolyte with the usual "it's the bad writing and breaks canon" claims, though it's a long pattern of him moving on from focused Star Wars lore discussion to lambasting much of what Disney has produced. Okay, so here we go. This seems like a weird like thing to put here. So and again, I'm kind of new to the Star Wars Theory lore, so one of the criticisms that I've seen levied at Star Wars Theory is that he used to just make content about Star Wars lore and whatever, and they're basically saying that he's like moved on to just shitting all over what Disney does, and it's just like Star Wars Theory now making videos about Star Wars and about the content and about how he thinks it should be better. I don't think that that's like grifting or necessarily or anything like that. Like I still think that is like in line with like I think at the end of the day, like his channel is about Star Wars. I think as long as he's talking about Star Wars, I don't like people try to like criticize him because of that. And I don't know that that's necessarily like a valid criticism. Like even if there is any truth to the idea that he doesn't talk about lore as much anymore, I don't think that that's necessarily like a valid criticism, because it's like he's still talking about Star Wars, and him talking about Lucasfilm and how they're messing up Star Wars, I think is probably fine. Like I just don't think that that's just like a weak criticism in my opinion. Theory went off on social media saying that things had crossed a line by trying to get these channels demonetized, which goes after people's livelihoods. He just released a video calling out another channel, Star Wars Explained, who had signed on to the demonetization movement. A video which got extremely personal, reviewing his private communications with the channel's owner in the past. I mean, this is just true. Like, Star Wars Theory did do all of these things. You know, and I think, sorry, I'm trying to think back to the video. Like, it's one of those things where you can make the criticism that maybe Star Wars Theory shouldn't have released like private DMs and whatnot. And, you know, I know that that's kind of like one of those unspoken rules of the internet where you're not supposed to release DMs. And I get that, but I also understand from Star Wars Theory's perspective that, well, he wants to like reveal who Star Wars Theory is, right? He's basically calling him Two-Faced in that video. And I think maybe you could say that Star Wars Theory should have like said like, hey, I have a bunch of messages showing that you're Two-Faced, and if Star Wars Theory wants to, and maybe make some claims and be like, hey, if Star Wars Theory wants to deny this, then I will release the messages. It's up to him, right? Throw the ball in his court. Like maybe he could have done that, but it's also like, I don't know. I don't know that it's honestly that big of a deal that Star Wars Theory released private messages, because he did it in order to prove a point. So I don't know. Here's my take on this whole grand drama. Okay, so basically, right here, the Forbes guy is saying that most of this is just him trying, you know, from an objective third-party overview, explaining what's going on. Okay, you know what? I'll take his word on that. Let's get into his actual opinion. Here's my take on this whole grand drama, which does not appear to even be over yet. The hate for the Acolyte is unlike anything I've seen in Star Wars history, possibly even more than The Last Jedi, which is saying something. I don't, is that true? Like, I feel like when it came to The Last Jedi, people definitely still like went after the people involved. So I don't know that that's necessarily true, but it is extreme. Definitely is extreme. There absolutely was an industry created on YouTube dismantling the show each and every week, much more forcefully than anything else before it. Even though this We Hate Disney Star Wars crew has been around for a long while, it did in fact make talking about the Acolyte online with any semblance of positivity practically impossible without being swarmed by what were often devotees of these channels, if not the YouTubers themselves. And again, this is all true. Like, this is just true. And I don't think you would do well to deny this, because if you're denying this, then you're just being dishonest. You can defend it. I would defend it in the sense that I think that it should be allowed to happen. Like, if people want to create a cottage industry criticizing Disney Star Wars, I think they should be allowed to do it. And I don't think that they should be demonetized. But I'm just saying, don't deny it, because this is simply true. The Acolyte was almost certainly canceled for an absurdly high budget, reportedly $180 million, and very low viewership, which third-party estimates have documented as being lower than any other Star Wars series. Yeah, like, people, the people, like, trying to, like, shit on Disney for canceling the Acolyte and bringing up, like, identity politics is just, it's just stupid. It's like, it was way too expensive and it had low viewership. Like, that's it. Still, the cancellation was absolutely celebrated as a win by this YouTube/fan crowd, and what they believe is vindication of their hate campaign against the show. Again, I mean, this is just true. It just is. If Amanda Stenberg says she experienced lots of racism before and during the airing of the series, she's not lying. And there are multiple examples of racism against other actors of color in Star Wars, from John Boyega to Moses Ingram. Yeah, it's like really weird. We're like, so people will say like, hey, I received some like racist messages or whatever. People were being racist towards me. And it's just like, people have this like weird, like, I don't even know how to explain it. So like Amanda Steinberg will be like, hey, I've been getting like racist messages. And then people will hear that, right? People that dislike the show. And they immediately get like super defensive, where they're like, oh, well, I didn't send any racist messages. I just dislike the show. As if Amanda Steinberg said that like literally everybody that dislikes the show is sending me racist messages. And it's like she never did that. And that just feels like a pattern where like they're not allowed to talk about racist messages that they get or harassment that they get. Because if they do, then people will like immediately start playing the victim as if they're saying that literally everybody that dislikes the show is a racist. That is something that happens. I mean, it absolutely is. Let's see. It would be very, very difficult to mount any sort of campaign to prove to a giant corporate blob like YouTube that specific Star Wars channels are breaking terms of service due to racism or harassment. This is bullshit. If there is actually something that is worth being demonetized, like if they actually sent people out to do harassment, or if they themselves were sending like death threats or something like that, you absolutely could point that out and send it to YouTube. This is a lie. I mean, this is just a lie. Or sorry, it's not a lie. He's just wrong. Not because it's not true necessarily, but getting anyone other than some keyword searching robot to examine this closely is near impossible. There is also a fine line between what you can prove to YouTube as overt racism or targeted harassment and people just being awful in general, which is allowed frequently on the platform. I mean, yeah, okay, this is a fair thing, right? Like some people can be awful, right? They can be cringe, they can be silly gooses, but it's allowed on the platform. So, I mean, it is what it is. There will likely be nothing to stop this large group of YouTubers and their large audiences. I cannot think of other examples of fandom where a toxic portion has simply been wiped off the map in any meaningful way. Maybe the worst offenders sometimes, but rarely. It just doesn't really happen. It's more pronounced here because Star Wars is one of the worst manifestations of this, other than, say, MCU haters who spent 100 videos on their channels going after Brie Larson. It may not surprise you that there is a significant overlap in these channels. I mean, yeah, it's all the same people. You cannot rely on Disney to back up its harassed actors like they should, and you cannot rely on YouTube to do anything useful here. They are corporations, they care about money above everything else, and they rarely will ever listen to fans over issues like this. Unfortunately, that's just the way it is. So, okay. Sorry, I'll just finish reading this last paragraph. So yeah, I don't have much hope anything here changes. Not that the movement isn't justified given everything that's happened, but any actual results seems effectively possible. So, I think it's fair to say after reading this article that it definitely seems to be the case, right? That he's kind of aligning himself with the people that want to demonetize YouTube channels and whatnot. So I think it's fair. That being said, he is still kind of like, I'm curious to see what exactly Star Wars Theory is going to pin him on here, because he does still try to keep himself detached. But I think something that I will say is that if Paul Tassi actually thinks that the movement isn't justified, that the movement is justified, instead of like writing this fucking article being like, oh, there's nothing that we can do, all of these guys, they do things that deserve to be demonetized. Oh, he should have written an article detailing the things that should be demonetized, bringing up specific examples. Because this whole thing of like being like, oh, there's nothing that can possibly ever change. Oh, it's like, no. If you actually make like a decent, because that's the other problem with the whole Star Wars Explained thing was that, I feel like they didn't even do a good job of like, of like specifically pinning anything down. So that's the criticism that I would have with Paul Tassi. Like, if you actually believe that they deserve to be demonetized, you absolutely could make an article detailing why. So I agree. So this article here, cringe, not good. Okay, let's see what Star Wars Theory has to say.
Several other YouTubers as well. And he really writes in his article that I and many others should be deplatformed and demonetized because of our rhetoric, because of our point of view of Star Wars in general. So anyways.
Okay, if we're being autistic, I don't think he ever technically says that. I think he like the closest he comes is saying that yeah, I don't have much hope anything here changes. Not that the movement isn't justified. So he's saying it's justified. So no, I'll give it to Star Wars Theory. He's basically saying that they should be deplatformed. Although to be fair, hold on. Technically, even when you go back to the whole Star Wars Explained and the Molly situation, technically they actually don't call for Star Wars Theory to be demonetized. All they really say is that, I think if I remember the claim correctly,
Let's go ahead and check this out.
I think they said that he's just like friends with them and he kind of provides cover for them. And when them, I think they were talking about the worst offenders like Nerdrotic and, you know, Ryan Kinnell or whatever. So, like technically speaking, I don't think anybody's actually called for Star Wars Theory himself to be demonetized.
And read this because I want to bring light to this. I don't think this is acceptable behavior. I don't think, for a publication such as Forbes, I don't think this is respectful. I don't think it's insightful, and I think it's malicious. You think the drama of the accolade is over? Think again. As now it has been arguments about content of the
One reason to try Zaxby's new chicken finger tacos? We'll give you two: Chipotle Ranch and Avocado BLT.
Yeah, I mean that's just the thing is that like that is actually a funny thing about this is that I actually don't think that in any of this Star Wars Theory himself has been called to be demonetized, unless I'm forgetting like a really specific example. I think all Star Wars Theory himself has really been accused of is like providing cover for the more
has progressed
the more sketchy elements of, you know, the whole anti-woke side of things.
into a full-on civil war in the Star Wars fandom community. The two parties are fans that appreciate shows like The Acolyte and did not appreciate what seemed to be a coordinated, relentless assault on the show and its actors by YouTubers and their subscribers. So where's the evidence that these are coming from YouTube, from the subscribers? Where's the evidence that all of these subscribers are sending attacks to the actors or the actresses or the writer?
This is retarded, okay? Listen. If you are a big YouTuber and you make... Oh, sorry, let me get out of this mode. What am I doing over here? Okay. If you are a YouTuber and you make content shitting on somebody, there is an element of your fandom that is going to go and harass them. That just is true. It just is. Now, does that necessarily mean that, like, you're in the wrong for making that type of content? I personally don't think so. But let's not play this game. Let's not play this game where it's like, where's the evidence that it was the YouTubers that they were fans of the YouTubers that, you know, that made those videos. Yes, like people like The Critical Drinker, people like Nerdrotic making videos specifically targeting creatives is going to send people to harass those creatives. Again, that just is true. Now, what you need to do is justify why, at the end of the day, that's an unfortunate side effect, but they should be allowed to do it. If you're being honest, that's the argument that you should be making.
Where is that information? I need that intel. They are attempting to demonetize many of those accounts which they believe are racist or encourage targeted harassment campaigns. The other side says they simply hate the show for normal reasons. The saga of The Acolyte is well known at this point. The show was little watched but developed core-based fans who really liked it, ranging from its representation, a black lead and an Asian heartthrob as its villain, to its storyline. I don't think anybody really gave a shit about the storyline. I think most people just cared about the fact that there was representation in this. And
This is retarded as well. Like, no, like, listen, people like The Acolyte. Or, sorry, some people like The Acolyte. Is it part of it that they appreciate the diversity? Sure, but I think people genuinely like the show, like the people that like it.
I think that's what people are really gleaning off of to essentially say if you didn't like this, since they liked it for that primary reason, then of course everyone has to have liked it for that reason too. And if they didn't, then they're going against that representation and therefore they're racist. So I would even argue that the people.
So this is my whole thing is that, like, are you if you criticize The Acolyte because it has a diverse cast or because of its like LGBTQ agenda, I personally do have to like take a step back, and my conclusion is that you are either probably racist and that you probably do just want to criticize that because you don't want to see like diverse people in media, or you're like, you know, homophobic or whatever, LGBTQ phobic, whatever all the phobics are for all of the alphabet letters. That is the conclusion that I come to, because if you actually watch The Acolyte, there's no forced like diversity plot lines or any like forced diversity or whatever the fuck in the show. Like there's no plot line. There's no plot line about how May is black and Soul is a racist or something weird like that. Also, like, none of the characters are ever even actually confirmed to be lesbians. Like, I know there's the whole lesbian space witches meme, but, like, just to be clear, none of those characters were ever confirmed to be lesbians. Sure, there was, like, that one couple that was, like, alluded to being lesbians, very heavily alluded, I will admit, but it was never confirmed. And again, even if let's just say that all of the lesbians or all of the witches on that island were lesbians, it's like, okay, but why is that a bad thing? Like, when you're making fun of the show, why are you emphasizing the fact that they are lesbians? So it's like, you can't say that, like, oh, you can't say it's like, you're saying that I'm homophobic just because I dislike the show. It's like, no. But, like, if you're specifically calling out the fact that the witches may or may not be lesbians, even though they don't actually confirm that, or if you actually just straight up call out the fact that it's a diverse cast, which there are people that do. Like, I still remember, I reacted to the Critical Drinkers, I remember when he reacted to the trailer. This is before we even watched the show. He reacted to the trailer, and he was like, there are too many diverse Jedi Padawans. He started counting the races of all the little Jedi Padawans. He was like, look at too much diversity. Like, he literally said that. I'm not even kidding. He said that. Maybe not that verbatim, but what I mean is that he literally called out the races of the Padawans. And so it's like, yeah, like, I'm going to be like, bro, you're either racist or you are so, like, neck deep into this retarded culture war bullshit that you've actually developed a mental illness. It's like, those are the two possibilities. You know what I mean?
People who are saying such things are only seeing the depth of the show or only showing interest in the show because there is representation. I would argue that none of the people who are so in love with the show would love it just as much as if everybody was white. I guarantee you, the people who love the show, I do not think they would like it as much or nearly at all if all of the cast members were white. And to me, I say, I don't care if they're purple. I don't care what color they are. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. Black, gay, straight, trans. You do what you want.
Look, everything you heard about me is true. I want what's mine.
Man.
And so this is the criticism that I feel like this is like my main criticism of Star Wars theory, is that it's fine if you have that perspective, right? If you personally don't care if, you know, there are gay characters or diverse characters, but when you take people that criticize the people that do care, those people exist. They do. You can't deny that they don't. When you see people criticizing those people and then, like, you deflect from that criticism, he's doing the thing that I was talking about. He's doing the thing where people are criticizing the people that obsess over, like, race and whatever and gay shit. And he's, like, deflecting from that, being like, well, I don't care about that stuff. I don't care if they're purple or gay or whatever. I just want a good story. It's like, okay, but you're not, like, talking about the people that I was talking about. So I feel like that's, like, the main thing that Star Wars theory does, is that he does, like, the Simpsons meme. You know that Simpsons meme where he, like, jumps in front of the bullet? I feel like that's what he kind of does, where he's, like, just, like, tries to deflect from the other people.
Cool story, cool characters, and that's it. Well written, thoughtful. I couldn't care less about what they do outside of that. Split from the Skywalker saga about several hundred years ago. The YouTubers in question devoted dozens, if not hundreds, of videos dedicated to tearing down the show and everyone associated with it each and every week, which led to not just pushback from Acolyte fans, but stars like Amanda Stenberg publicly talking about the racism she experienced. And look, like I've said this a million times, there are so many people that are for sure assholes and racists and bigots and some homophobic and all that, but I feel like it's a very small minority. And to take a magnifying glass and just enlarge it and blow it up as if...
Like, I don't think, like, here's the thing, right? Nerdrotic. So, like, this guy has 1 million subscribers. Let's see, the Critical Drinker. He has like 2 million subscribers. Like, you can't just be like, oh, it's just a little teeny tiny bit of the fandom. Oh, they're toxic and that like harasses people and that demonizes people. And it's just like, no, it's a pretty big group of the fandom, It's a large group of people. Again, the Critical Drinker, literally obsessing over the races of the Jedi Padawans, talking about how they're too diverse. Like, what? Again, he's doing the fucking Simpsons thing where he's jumping in front of the bullet, being like, I'm not racist. I don't care about that stuff. It's like, okay, well, other people do. It's fine to address them.
If it's the majority of people, I think that's really irresponsible to do, especially as a journalist. I think if we're going to really look at something from a objective point...
That's not even what... By the way, the article here isn't even saying that it's everybody. It says, YouTubers in question devoted dozens, if not hundreds of videos dedicated to tearing down the show and everyone associated with it each and every week. Again, that's just true. It just is true. Just facts. Again, like, how am I doing a better job of defending these people than this guy? The argument is that, yes, they did that. Yes, there's a cottage industry tearing down the show and everyone associated with it each and every week. But it should be allowed to happen. They shouldn't get demonetized. It should be allowed for them to criticize the show. Even if they do it excessively. Even if they excessively criticize the people involved. Like, it's mean. I personally think it's excessive. But at the end of the day, they decided to make a show and publicly put it out there, and when you publicly put something out there, people are going to criticize it. That's an honest defense of what's going on. Not this weird thing that Star Wars Theory is doing here, where he's like, "It's not happening. Oh, you're saying that everybody's a racist? Oh, you're saying that everybody's doing this?" It's like, that's not even what the article is saying here.
Point of view, we have to really see it for what it is. Okay, there are shitty people everywhere, all over the world. Okay, you run into them every day. I run into them every day. There's also very nice people all over the world. Am I to say that just because one person I met is shitty, or 2 people out of the 100 I meet in a day are shitty, then therefore all of them are shitty? No, that's just the select few. That's how life works. You can't fix the world.
Okay, so let's read these tweets here. Okay, let's see.
In a day are shitty, then therefore all of
maybe Paul Tassi is saying what he's saying. He's saying that was a sentence.
them are shitty. No, that's just the select few. That's how life.
It's incredible. The guy can confess to the thing in an actual Star Wars Theory thread, show the opposite end of the message, explain how he did it, and people will still say it's somehow fake. There's nothing you can do to make these people... Okay, this is just the way they work. They send themselves fake, unverifiable threats / harassment that they parade around, then blame the people that don't like it. Okay, so I guess somebody was sending Paul Tassi a threat. Okay, so I'm seeing here that somebody sent him a threat, and then he confessed to it. Yeah, well, again, so I just want to be clear about something here. Star Wars Theory, he read that paragraph where Paul Tassi just said facts and logic. He just said something that was objectively true. That a bunch of these YouTubers with large audiences every week tore down the show, and not just the show, but tore down the creatives involved with the show And Star Wars Theory then took that claim, which is just objectively true. That's just objectively true. And went, you're saying that the entire fandom did that? You can't say that everybody did that. And then he puts up this tweet where that's like nothing in this tweet is Paul Tassi saying that all of the people that didn't like the Acolyte are doing this. Like this tweet is actually not even related to what's currently being talked about. Okay, let's see what the next one is.
You can't fix the world.
Reported, I'm done. First text threats, but the things I've been sent the past few days are consistently disgusting. Have no respect for this part of the community or those who cultivate it. Inexcusable and pathetic. Okay, hold on. So, okay, here's where I might disagree with Paul Tassi here, right? So he's saying, so up until the point where it says consistently disgusting, right? That's fine. Then he says, have no respect for this part of the community or those who cultivate it, inexcusable and pathetic. So what we need is okay, so this, I guess this is where you could interpret this as maybe Paul Tassi blaming Star Wars Theory for like cultivating this kind of community, right? Okay, this is where I think you could really criticize Paul Tassi, right? Where Paul Tassi is maybe like ignoring the reality of the situation, to where if you have a large audience and you criticize somebody, those people are going to, like, parts of their audience are going to harass people. And I think that's just something that, like, if Star Wars Theory would just openly state that and acknowledge that, I feel like that would go a long way to really making like an honest defense. Because Paul Tassi adding that bit at the end there, where he's saying like, I have no respect for this part of the community or those who cultivate it, right? That is him kind of like inadvertently like accusing Star Wars Theory, right? I think of cultivating this kind of community. And it's like, and I guess, sorry, I'm like obviously thinking about this in real time. I guess from a certain point of view, it is true. It is true that if you make content consistently demonizing people, you will cultivate a community that goes out and harasses those people. That, you know what? Hold on. That probably is just true. Like, it probably is fair to say that people like Nerdrotic and people like The Critical Drinker and Ryan Kinnell, I think it's probably fair to say that they do cultivate a community that is toxic and that goes out and harasses these people. But again, I guess I just wish that these people could be just more honest and say that, yes, we do that. We inarguably do that. But there's only so much you can do about it. I guess I just wish they would come out and be honest about that. You know what I mean?
Unfortunately. Now, Amanda Stenberg took that minority who were racist and jerks and essentially said the entire fandom who does not like the Acolyte is alt-right, racist.
Amanda Steinberg never said that. She never said that. Or at the very least, I have never seen anybody produce some sort of evidence or quote of her ever saying that. I just don't think she ever did.
Bigots. I mean, that to me that's also extremely irresponsible, especially in her position. And she is representing Lucasfilm, and she is representing Leslie Headland and everybody else that she worked with. Nobody's saying a damn thing. If anything, they're saying.
No, is she representing Lucasfilm? Sure. Is she representing Leslie Headland? I don't think so.
You go, girl.
Yeah, baby.
What is this? And so we have these articles from a massive publication, Forbes, also touting the same kind of bullshit. I think this is seriously a massive red flag. It's a form of brainwashing in a sense where if people don't understand or don't see, like, oh no, these people are racist. My God, it couldn't be further from the truth. Racist people are racist, but that's not the majority of everybody. For example, I don't want to make it about me, but you know, the death threats and stuff.
Yeah, okay, so again, I need to be clear. They never said that it was everybody that didn't like the Acolyte, that they're racist. They just never said that. Amanda Steinberg nor Paul Tassi ever said that. He's just saying this, even though it was never said. He's doing the brainwashing.
That were thrown at me that you guys saw on Twitter, on X, horrible things that were said that I even showed in some videos, that all comes from that side of the fandom who loved the Acolyte. Am I therefore to say that everyone that loves the Acolyte is a disgusting piece of shit who wants...
Yes, okay. The people that tried to get you demonetized, although again, I don't think they ever tried to get him specifically demonetized, but if somebody makes a bunch of tweets, if somebody makes a bunch of videos going after you, right? Calling you a racist, a homophobe, or whatever, and then people from their fandom go out and start harassing you, it is fair to say that they cultivated a community that led to them going out and harassing you. That's fair to say. It might even be fair to criticize them, right? Saying like, hey man, I think you're being a bit obsessive here. And then obviously, you can criticize like the points that they make. And then their argument could be, well, I'm allowed to do it. And even though, yes, I am going to direct harassment towards them, even though that is something that I'm going to end up doing, at the end of the day, there's only so much you can do about that. Again, I just wish people could be more honest.
to wish me death in the most gruesome, horrible, weird, psycho ways? No, those are just a few bad apples that are psychotic. That happens. That's the internet. That's life. That's people. Then the show was canceled. Given that Disney is, well, Disney.
Again, so he's like saying all of that. He's like trying to like get on his moral high horse, even though that's nothing. That's not even anything different from what they said. Again, unless I'm just being full on retarded and I'm just like, unless I just misunderstood a part in the article. Let me know. If you're gonna let me know, give me a specific line from this article. At no point did Paul Tassi ever say that anybody that dislikes the Acolyte is a part of this group. Tell me where he said that. I don't think he ever said that. Give me a specific like link to a video of Amanda Steinberg ever saying that everybody that dislikes the Acolyte is a racist. I don't think she ever said that. And if you believe that to be the case, you are being brainwashed by Star Wars theory.
The decision likely came down to mainly an absurdly high cost, which was very much Disney's fault, and low viewership. Though many, including, it had nothing to do with the high cost. They'll pay up the nose for anything that they want, as long as it gets the views, as long as it gets the money. That's really at the end of the day all it is. So, this...
Okay, that's retarded. Yes, that's what he says. Yes, because for the amount of views that it got, the cost is too high. He's just like trying to like correct him for no reason.
Thing could have cost freaking $100 million. It still wouldn't have been enough for them to renew it for a second season. And low viewership, though many, including some of the cast, credited the racism and harassment and felt it gave a win to toxic parts of the fandom. Now we enter the current phase, which went, members of the Star Wars community in support of shows like The Acolyte and its actors banded together to create a movement to try and get a number of specific Star Wars channels demonetized with examples of what they believe was racism and harassment in their videos, which should be against YouTube's terms of service. Well, clearly it wasn't, since YouTube said
hold on.
what they believe was racism.
Members of the Star Wars community in support of shows like The Acolyte. Oh, sorry, never mind. I misheard something.
And harassment in their videos, which should be against YouTube's terms of service. Well, clearly it wasn't, since YouTube said that this does not go against terms of service. However, once YouTube itself was tagged, the concept was met with an immediate reply 13 minutes later from YouTube that they reviewed the video in question and found that it was not in violation and no action would be taken. This was celebrated immediately by the targeted YouTubers in question, though further investigation reveals that it is a pretty generic YouTube auto message, which has been used hundreds of times before, and there's no evidence that YouTube took the quite elaborate movement seriously for more than a few minutes or did anything resembling investigation. So this also is incorrect. So what Paul Tassi does is he looks at the reply which was sent a day after this was actually created. So this was actually created and sent on September 4th, which took YouTube an entire day to check out the claims, and then they replied on the 5th, and they said,
oh, hold on. I didn't even notice that. Okay. This is a fair call out, I think.
Thanks for reaching out. Just heard back and confirmed that this content is not violative and will remain up. We totally understand you may not agree with this decision, but we reviewed this video very carefully against our policies. They replied the day before this, and they said, we're going to check it out. Could you please send a link?
Oh, hold up. Uh-oh. Sneaky Paul Tassi. Okay, Hey, I didn't even call it. I didn't catch this.
Link of all of the videos in question or the channels in question. And Molly Damon, sweet old Molly, went to YouTube's aid and made sure that she freaking tried to rat every single person out on that list. And I bet you I was in that freaking link too to take away our livelihoods. And I sound like a broken record.
I bet you.
You don't understand. Imagine.
I don't know that he was. I feel like Star Wars Theory is like, he's like engaging in stolen valor, because I don't think that they ever actually tried to demonetize him specifically. I remember in the manifesto, they didn't like, he was not a part of the list of YouTubers that they were trying to get demonetized.
You work so freaking hard.
I do think that there is a little bit of like, I feel like Star Wars Theory wants to be a victim here, where he's like, I want to be one of the guys that they're trying to demonetize, even though I don't think he really is. I think people are just saying that he provides like shielding from them, like, you know, kind of like how I was talking about earlier.
And someone just wants to take that away from you because of wrong thing, because you don't agree with them on a freaking show. So Paul Tassi right there, journalist, writer for Forbes, is writing misinformation, trying to say that this is an automated response within a few minutes. Incorrect. It's a response a few minutes, one full day after having checked everything out. 2, hey, Team YouTube, Star Wars community would at least appreciate a formal. I love how they call themselves the Star Wars community. It's like, yeah, only you guys that like the Acolyte are the Star Wars community. Everybody else who's been supporting it literally got it to the point where it's worth $4 billion for George to sell. They're just a bunch of losers, grifters, racists. They don't actually give a shit about Star Wars. Come on, use this thing if you got it. No further investigation reveals this is a pretty generic YouTube auto message, which has been used hundreds of... That's just because that'll help you sleep at night, right?
What's bothering you?
Nothing.
And there's no evidence that YouTube took the...
I mean, this is just true. Like, it is a very generic YouTube auto message. It's the one that YouTubers always get, and it is very much like dubious, like whether or not there was an actual like earnest attempt to check out the claims. I mean, it just is true that is a very generic message that YouTubers get, and even when it's obvious that something doesn't break terms of service, there are plenty of examples where YouTube will like demonetize people, or like a robot will demonetize somebody, and then it's just like nobody at YouTube actually looks into it. I mean, that is a thing that happens, to be fair. Whether or not that happened here, it's hard to say.
quite elaborate movement seriously for more than a few minutes. They spent a full day, and then they got back to you and said that there's nothing that violates terms of service. More do you want? Why are you lying? Why are you always lying? Or did anything resembling investigation? How do you know? What do you, Team YouTube? Why don't you just tweet yourself, bro? It was likely just a bot scraping a video.
Yeah, again, he's not saying that he knows. He's just saying that there's no evidence. So this is a fair thing to say. Again, I don't think that they should be demonetized. I think that the whole movement was cringe. But it is absolutely true that there's like a more than 40% chance that nobody at YouTube even looked at it. I mean, that is just possible.
And what video that even was isn't clear. Why are you making stuff up, bro? Just take the L, move on, write your other articles for Forbes, and you're just making the company look more and more shitty. But hey, you're giving me something to talk about, so that's great. Thanks, pal. Maybe it's time I now turn the tide. That level of abruptness and lack of diligence is not very surprising. This guy's still going on in his own life. Bro, they took over a day. Get over it. Move on. It's okay, Sally. Since this happened, fans have now pointed towards people moving on to comment on a black actor's Instagram that they want the acolyte treatment, viewing that as a threat to mount a similar movement. One random Johnny Root _ stands for everybody. These people, man, just like desperate. Like, this is your facts. This.
Again. What? This is like, what do you? Okay. I have to question whether or not Star Wars Theory, whether he's just kind of retarded, or if this is on purpose. So, okay. Listen, I understand that there are a lot of you watching this video that are like fans of Star Wars Theory. I need you to stay with me, okay? For what? Just follow me here. Follow me. The article says, since this happened, fans. Does not say all fans, but fans have now pointed toward people, sorry. Oh my God, hold on, wait. Sorry. Okay, follow me here again. So since this happened, fans have now pointed toward people. Sorry, I'm now misreading the thing. People. It doesn't say Everybody that dislikes the Acolyte says people moving on to comment on a black actor's Instagram. Okay.
And lack of diligence is not very smart. This guy's still going on in his own life. Bro, they took over a day. Get over it. Move on. It's okay, Sally. Since this happened, fans have now pointed towards people moving on to comment on a black actor's Instagram that they want the Acolyte treatment, viewing that as a threat to mount a similar movement. One random Johnny Root underscore stands for everybody. These people, man.
He never said that it stands for everybody. He just says that there are now some people moving on to the Rings of Power actor to threaten them to give them the Acolyte treatment. He never said everybody. He never said it. He never said that. I need to ask, if you're like a fucking Star Wars theory fan, do you not understand what I've pointed out here? That they will point to, like, where like somebody will say like, hey, some of these guys are like being kind of racist, or hey, some of these guys are like threatening the Rings of Power show. And then this guy does this. Hold on, let me actually bring this up. He does the Simpsons meme. Simpsons jumping in front of bullet. He does this. He jumps. He like jumps in front of the bullet. He's like, I'm not one of those people. It's wrong for you to point them out. It's like, what? Like, do you understand what I'm pointing out here, right?
Man, just like desperate. Like, this is your facts. This is your evidence. One random dude on the internet sends a message. What the fuck, bro? The YouTuber side of this escalated thanks to Star Wars Theory, the largest. Well, thanks, Paul. You're welcome. You're welcome, Paul.
Hey, Papa John's here, and are you hungry? I know I am. Got a great deal just for you. It's called Papa Pairings.
The largest Star Wars fan channel on the internet who has been the frequent centerpiece of what is viewed as the toxic part of the fandom. Really? Please tell me what it is I do that's so toxic. Because I just call out what I think.
The YouTuber side of this, the largest Star Wars fan channel piece on the internet, who has been the frequent centerpiece of what is viewed as the toxic part of the fandom. That's like... Do people not view you that way? Like, even if it's wrong, it is just kind of true that people kind of view you that way. It's just like, they're like, while again, I agree that at the end of the article, it does seem like Paul Tassi is in support of the demonetizing people movement, and I think that's retarded. But up to this point, this is like an objectively true thing, where, yes, there are people that view Star Wars Theory as toxic. Like, that's just, like, it just is true that people view him as that, whether it's true or not. You know what I mean?
Who has been the frequent centerpiece of what is viewed as the toxic part of the fandom. Really? Please tell me what it is I do that's so toxic. Because I just call out what I think isn't really akin to what George would have done, and that's it. So if that's toxic, then I guess you want everyone to have a gag order unless it aligns with your beliefs. And that, I think, is far beyond toxic. That's a totalitarian regime. That's a dictatorship. Theory also constantly bashed the Acolyte with the usual, it's the bad writing and breaks canon claims. Well, yeah, it did. Please tell me how it didn't. Please tell me how the Acolyte was good writing and it didn't break canon. I'd love for you to explain this in your next Forbes.
It didn't, at least from the video that I saw.
Article. I'll be waiting. Though it's a long pattern of him moving on from focused Star Wars lore discussion to lambasting much of what Disney has produced. We see when you grow up with something that you really love, and you see it being torn to shreds by people who don't understand it, and then if you don't like it, being called racist, and then having your entire livelihood potentially taken away from you because you don't like what they've done to something so sacred to you. I guess that is what I'm doing. Yeah, it's quite a long pattern. I think speaking about how...
Yeah, I think this is just like this is a like kind of a retarded thing to even point out or criticize Star Wars theory over. Like, there's nothing weird or abnormal from moving on from talking about lore as much to actually talking about Star Wars itself.
I mean, you're kind of contradicting yourself. You're talking about how I'm talking about how it's bad writing for Star Wars, which I explained, and it breaks canon. How is that moving on from focused Star Wars lore discussion? Theory went off on social media saying that things had crossed a line by trying to get these channels demonetized, including mine. But let's not forget, Alex and Molly have been trying to use other people as an icebreaker, as a scapegoat to get to me for years. And so it's no surprise why they would write such a freaking thing to demonetize and deplatform people, then to have me lumped in the same freaking...
Yeah, well, this is the thing, right? Where it's like people are like, oh, they're lumping me in, but it's like I remember when we read this. It was also like Star Wars Theory was included in such a way where they were like expressly detaching them from the group of people that they were calling to be demonetized. So it's just like I don't. Again, I don't think that they were specifically trying to get him demonetized, but whatever.
Letter, which goes after people's livelihoods. He just released a video calling out another channel, Star Wars Explained, who had signed on to the demonetization. He just released a video calling out another channel, Star Wars Explained, who calling out, bro, I literally just put the mirror up to their face after they were berating me for 8 years.
Yeah, that's calling them out. That's what that is. What do you? What the fuck?
Jealous and just envious and rude and shit talking me behind my back.
Okay, here's the thing. He's clearly emotional right now. But he is just like some of the things that he's calling out in the article, he's just being stupid while he's doing it. But I get it. He's clearly emotional.
Back to so many people for so many years simply because I did well on YouTube. The receipts are all there. That's not calling anyone out. That's just saying I've had enough. Leave me alone. And that's all this is.
Yes, that is calling them out. That's what you're doing. Again, this is okay. Oh, hold on. This is just a pattern of behavior now, where they're just like they can't just admit that they're doing something. Be like, yes, I am doing that, but because of this, and this, it is valid for me to do it. Like, they can't say that the type of content that they make is going to invariably lead to the people that we talk about getting harassed, but it's still okay for me to do that because of this, and this reason. He can't even say that he called out Star Wars Theory. He can't even just admit that. Or not Star Wars Theory, Star Wars Explained. He has to, like, come up with some, like, cockamamie, like, stupid, like, I don't know, like, loophole. Be like, I'm not calling them out. I'm just, like, I don't even know why he wouldn't want to admit to that. It's just so stupid.
The more you keep coming for me, the more I'm just going to expose you and destroy you. It's just how it works now. I've had enough. Star Wars Explained, who had signed on to the demonetization movement, a video which got extremely personal, reviewing his private communications with the channel's owner in the past. Yeah, bro's acting like I revealed some top secret level information. The guy was trying to get my information. The guy was trying to understand a channel that was out for 2 months that amassed 50,000 subscribers, could not fathom how his channel, which was around for 4 or 5 something years, was growing so fast, and he was trying to poach me for information and be my friend. And when I didn't give him any information, because honestly, I didn't know what the hell I was doing, I was just making Star Wars content I enjoyed, he started to just talk shit about me nonstop. And then he would apologize and talk more shit, and then say sorry, and then do it again and again and again, to the point where now his wife is trying to deplatform me and throw me under the bus for what? He, like, full on went after me out of the freaking blue on some topics and videos that I was talking about regarding some stuff in this scenario, the solo posters.
Yeah, I don't know. Again, I said this before. I don't think that there's really anything. Like, you can make the argument that maybe he should have just made claims without posting the private messages, and then, like, if Star Wars Explained denied any of them, then, you know, be like, oh, you forced my hand, Star Wars Explained. Here is all the evidence. But, like, at the end of the day, like, I know that there's, like, the unspoken rule of, oh, you can't share, like, private DMs, but I think if you're, like, explicitly trying to make an argument, I think it's reasonable to do it.
He's apologizing and blah, 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 blah. And you realize it's not just the stuff that I showed. It's over the years. All of the weird little tweets that I would see, they would like, of people just talking ill about me, the Pablo Hidalgo stuff, they were all in. They enjoyed that. They were laughing with him. They were liking his tweets. Don't think I didn't see this stuff. I see, I check, I watch. I just didn't say anything until they tried to pull the plug. Here's my take on this whole grand drama, which does not appear to even be over yet. Oh, you bet it's not, man. We're just getting started. The hate for the accolade is unlike anything I've seen in Star Wars history, possibly even more than Last Jedi, which is saying something. Yeah, I would say so. I think people are really disgusted by it, and I think it's just an absolute abhorrent story that has no place in Star Wars and has no place before The Phantom Menace and just breaks a ton of lore. I mean, as you said, I've made countless videos about it, so why don't you go watch them? In fact, I bet you have, but just like your lack of data, or rather your manipulation of data with YouTube's response time, you just want to lie and pretend like you don't know. But really, we all know you got that incognito mode on 24/7, and I'm living rent-free on your browser. Well, thanks for the views, so thanks. I hope Alex
he's owning him. He's owning him. Whoa. By the way, if anybody's curious, this is the video where I watched Star Wars Theory talk about the Cal Mundi, whatever, like, supposed lore breaking, even though it didn't actually break any lore based on what his arguments were, in my opinion. So if anybody actually wants to see somebody look into what he's talking about, there it is. I'll leave a link in the description if I remember.
losing sleep over that tonight. There absolutely was an industry created on YouTube dismantling the show each and every week. Yeah, it's called reviewing products, reviewing media, reviewing shows and movies. That's what do you think were the first people that reviewed movies? That's been going on for many, many years, far before YouTube even existed. People were reviewing movies in magazines. I'm sure Forbes was probably part of that as well. Such as there's an industry for people like you lying and trying to throw people under the bus and paint a picture that is so unbelievably far from the truth. But like I say, when you're a journalist, the truth really doesn't matter. It's more so about clicks and what your narrative can purport to people who don't know any better. Even though this We Hate Disney Star Wars crew has
Hold on. Oh wait, never mind. Sorry, I thought he skipped over something. Okay, never mind.
around for a long while, it did in fact make talking about the Acolyte online with any semblance of positivity practically impossible without being swarmed by what were often devotees of these channels, if not the YouTubers themselves. Where was this rhetoric with The Mandalorian Season 1 or Season 2? Where was this, for the most part, were often devotees of these channels, if not the
Wait, sorry, I was created on YouTube dismantling the show each and every week, much more forcefully than anything else before it, even though this We Hate Disney Star Wars crew has been around for a long while. Did in fact make talking about the Acolyte online with any semblance of positivity practically impossible without being sworn by... Okay, yeah, sorry.
YouTubers themselves. Where was this rhetoric with The Mandalorian Season 1 or Season 2? Where was this, for the most part, with Andor? Where was this level of disdain with Ahsoka? I mean, sure, yeah, a lot of people disliked it, but nothing close to this level. Where was this with Tales of the Jedi? So, am I to understand that it's all of the shows, or could it perhaps be subjective? And why would it be subjective? Well, let's think about it. Maybe the shows just aren't as good as the other ones. Maybe it doesn't run along the pre-established lore or cadence that George Lucas created with Star Wars when he made it. Could that possibly be it? Or are we just picking at random here?
Well, I mean, so here's the reality, right? So, it absolutely is true that there are, like, these anti-woke people that will, you know, like, that will attack certain shows that for having diverse casts or having like gay people in it or whatever. But if it's a good show, then those attacks just kind of fall apart, right? So like, The Acolyte just happened to be a really good punching bag because, like, while I personally think that those kinds of criticisms, right, the criticisms about its diversity and the, you know, the criticisms of there being lesbian space witches, even though there weren't even confirmed lesbian space witches, I was like, again, that whole thing is just retarded in my opinion. But like, that stuff, they're allowed to like sort of like sneak those criticisms in it because there are also a bunch of like valid criticisms, and it just isn't a good show. And so that's kind of the whole thing about it, is that you can easily like deal with those attacks if your show is good. Because if your show is good, because like the thing about Ahsoka, right? Even though like people generally speaking, I guess, liked it more than The Acolyte, I still remember all of those same people criticizing, like all those same criticisms are there. Like, I'm pretty sure people, like, yeah, if I remember correctly, I think there were people being like, oh, women in space, the show. And it's like, but like when The Acolyte is also, or when Ahsoka was like, generally speaking, not as hated, right? It wasn't necessarily as bad, you know, according to most people, as The Acolyte. Well, then that kind of stuff just doesn't really hit as hard. But because The Acolyte is like uniquely bad, as well as having a lot of those elements, it's a lot easier for those people to attack those elements of the show. Does that make sense? Because, like, again, a good example of it is like X-Men 97, right? Show is probably the wokest show that Disney Plus has ever made, right? You know, they like recreate January 6th. You have Magneto going on rants about about racism and homophobia, but it's a great show. So any like anti-woke attack against it, people are just going to be like, shut up, nobody cares. But, and again, what I will say is that doesn't make like, so like, even though The Acolyte is bad, that doesn't then make those like weird criticisms about its diversity or its like LGBTQ agenda, which isn't even really existent within the show, that doesn't suddenly make those criticisms valid.
happens that the ones we pick at random, because we don't like the shows, actually end up not doing well in terms of views and get canceled. This we hate Disney Star Wars, there's no proof for that. It's a we love Star Wars. We love George Lucas Star Wars. And anything that wants to come in there and change that instead of adding to it, expanding it, respecting it, then yes, we will dislike that and we're going to talk about it. This whole idea of, today's world is like, oh, it's really ruining the positivity. Well, you don't have to be positive about something if it isn't good. You don't always have to be positive. Toxic positivity is the most annoying thing I have ever experienced, at least one of. Let's say you go to a restaurant and you're eating food and you really don't like it. It's got way too much salt. I dare you not to say anything. Don't be negative. Don't be negative. Enjoy it. Take that freaking salt and let your kidneys filter it through. And
I do that, to be fair. Like, I will rarely be like, waiter, this dish is not what I ordered. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I do get nervous and I'm like, I'll just eat it, whatever, fuck it.
enjoy the high blood pressure, man. Don't say anything. You're being negative.
Take your drink. Okay, you okay?
So then we're essentially living in a world where this needs to be shut against any sort of human judgment. You cannot judge anything anymore. Everything has to be perfect. Everything is perfect. And there is no such thing as something not being up to par. You just have to talk about the positive things. I don't believe that. I believe the best thing in life is to actually look at some of the things that aren't the best and really realize, hey, what can we do to course correct here and make it better? And that's how civilization got better. That's how evolution with cities and technology and everything got better. It's like, well, you know what? I don't like this function. This could be better. That could be better. With everything, that's how things grow and that's how things improve. If everyone was just like, oh, what do you think penicillin would be created if people weren't negative? This infection is really horrible. It's killing everybody. But we should just enjoy life for the most part. And how far do you want this to go? Do you want, we can take this from we can take your analogy from movies, and we can just go something ridiculous like that. Where does it end? You want us to sit there, consume the thing, and be happy and repeat and ask for more. No, some people just don't like that. The Acolyte was almost certainly canceled for an absurdly high budget, reportedly 180 million. And is he repeating himself here? Which third-party estimates have documented as being lower than any.
I mean, yeah, I don't obviously that's right, but it's also just ignoring the he's just kind of he sweeps under the rug, right? The harassment and the racism or the homophobia or whatever. He just sweeps that under the rug. Obviously nobody's reasonably gonna say that you can't dislike a show. Again, he just sweeps all that under the rug and he says, well, I'm not one of those people. And it's okay.
The Star Wars series. Yes, still, the cancellation was absolutely celebrated as a win by this YouTube fan crowd and what they believe is a vindication of their hate campaign against the show. It's not vindication against a hate campaign. Well, he says hate campaign. It's being happy that something did not pass when it disrespected the lore and disrespected George Lucas and just overall was a really convoluted mess of a show. And that's really all it is. It's not that deep, man. It's just a bad show. Shows get canceled all the time. If Amanda Stenberg says she experienced lots of racism before and during the airing of the series, she is not lying. And there are multiple examples of racism against other actors of color in Star Wars, from John Boyega to Moses Ingram. Yeah, and I would say the biggest one was Disney, who shrunk John Boyega down in the Chinese posters. Look what they did with Chadwick Boseman, with the Black Panther. I think they just tried to really purport this narrative, and it can be called out so easily and dismantled with facts, because they're all out there. This is not opinion. This is this guy's opinion. And in fact, he's not even getting the facts straight about certain things. He's just misleading stuff. So I think these writers and these publications are just so full of it. Because
why would Disney appeasing China? What does that have to do with anything? How is that a good response to what he's talking about? That doesn't make the racists from the toxic part of the fandom. That doesn't make those disappear. I don't know why he thinks that's some kind of ode.
because there's nothing actually genuine about them. It's very disingenuous. And I'm calling it all out here, one by one. It would be very, very difficult to mount any sort of campaign to prove to a giant corporate blob like YouTube. I'm talking about corporate blob, bro. What Forbes is turning into. Forbes used to be a publication that actually meant something. But now they have half-bit writers like you out there.
Oh, got him.
Just scroll up, man. Just to purport your narrative. That's ridiculous. That's not journalism. That's not seeing things from a side of fairness and balance. This is an unbalanced journalist who obviously has some sort of agenda against YouTubers and against people that didn't like what he liked. I guess they're all racist and they need to be deplatformed. Corporate blob like YouTube, that the specific Star Wars channels are breaking. You know, the only Star Wars channel he spoke about here was me. Paul, bro, like what's your heart on with me for? You're just freaking obsessed, dude.
This is true. Again, and I said this earlier in the video. His whole attitude of there's nothing that can be done. There's nothing that can be done. Oh no. Yeah, just make an article detailing it. This is also the other stupid thing is that in my videos, listen, you can like me or not like me if you're a big Star Wars theory fan and you're mad that I'm criticizing your favorite YouTuber. One thing that you can't deny is that I am sitting here and I'm watching his fucking video and I'm responding directly to what he says. And when I criticize something, I'm bringing up exactly I'm actually explaining myself, because at the end of the day, I don't care if he gets demonetized or not. That's not the point of any of this, right? It's just that it's just not a conversation, but we're just expressing our ideas. The Paul Tassi guy, he should write an article where he's detailing all of this stuff irregardless of whether or not they get demonetized. Like, that shouldn't be the goal.
Hey, this is getting you views. I'm not sure. I don't know. I can make a video on anything, and it'll do fine. So I know that's what you're going to go to. Like, you're getting views off my article. Absolutely, bro. You're calling me out. You started it. What do you want? Fair game, baby. Game's game. Corporate blob like YouTube, specific Star Wars channels are breaking terms of service due to racism or harassment. Again, another lie. Where is that evidence?
Well, okay, that's also stupid. So, okay, the only reason why he brought up the views thing is because you called him out first in the initial reaction in the other videos. So, like, again, Paul Tassi writes an article about why they should make a live-action Clone Wars show. Star Wars Theory responds to the article in an unhinged manner. And then being like, oh, you're just trying to get views off of me or whatever. But, like, you responded to an article that had nothing to do with you, Star Wars Theory. So anyways, none of that matters, but if you've been following this entire saga, then I'm autistically analyzing this whole thing.
Please show me the evidence of me being racist or showing harassment or sending harassment to anyone. I would say it's actually what you do to YouTubers. Me, as evidenced by that 13 minutes later auto response. Again, another lie. That response was done after a day's work of them investigating. So it could have been hours. They fully took a day. Not because it's not true necessarily, but getting anyone other than some keyword searching robot to examine this closely is near impossible. They had actual responses. I mean, look at Molly's responses to YouTube and YouTube's responses to her. And that was clearly a person checking something out. And they responded to a few of these people that tried to deplatform all of us. And in the end, this was the final response. I mean, I don't know what you want, bro. Sour grapes. So you tried to take people's livelihoods away under the guise of being racist, and you failed. And now you want to say it's a bot response when it's clearly right. The date is right there, bro. They took a full day to actually figure out what you're saying. It's minutes. There's also a fine line between what you can prove to YouTube as overt racism or targeted harassment and people just being awful in general. They want to talk, which is allowed frequently on the platform. There will likely be nothing to stop this large group of YouTubers and their large audiences. I cannot think of other examples of fandom where a toxic portion has simply been wiped off the map in any meaningful way. Wow, dude, those karma points are really adding up for you right now, eh? Maybe the worst offenders sometimes, but rarely. It just doesn't really happen. It's more pronounced here because Star Wars is one of the worst manifestations of this, other than, say, MCU haters who spent 100 videos on their channels going after Brie Larson. It may not surprise you that there is a significant overlap in these channels. You cannot rely on Disney to back up its harassed actors like they should, and you cannot rely on YouTube to do anything useful here. They are corporations. They care about money above
Like,
everything
the
else.
thing is that, like, I don't think it's smart for Disney to, like, directly address these people. Because it's just, like, for Disney to actually, like, address any of this stuff, I think it's just, like, adding fuel to the fire. The only thing, and I've consistently said this, the only thing that Disney can really do, like, realistically, is just make better content. I mean, that's the thing, right? Like, and it's unfortunate, but it just kind of is the way that it is, right? Like, yes, did people unfairly target the Acolyte because it has a diverse cast, because they perceived the lesbians to be, or the space witches to be lesbians? Like, yes. But, like, you can have the show with the diverse cast. You can even do the brave thing, okay? The thing that we were. The thing that we were robbed of, right? You can even go even farther. Have the witches have hot lesbian sex. And if it's good, then any of those criticisms that are shitty, that are stupid, like, nobody's going to care because the show is good. So, like, that's all Disney should be doing, is just trying to make better content.
And they rarely will ever listen to fans over issues like this. Well, again, it's about the money. And I would argue that if you take money out of the whole equation and views and clout and all that stuff, and all that was invisible, would this still matter to them so much? Would they still be talking about money constantly? It's all about money. What does the money have to do with anything, any of the merit that we're actually saying in our videos? At least in my videos. Unfortunately, that's just the way it is. Well, you're such a stand-up guy because you don't do anything for money. It's not like you're misinforming people and literally flat out lying and saying that people should lose their jobs because you don't agree with their takes on movies and shows. Wow, what a person. So yeah, I don't have much hope anything here changes. Not that the movement isn't justified. Oh shit, okay, doubling down. Given everything that's happened, but any actual result seems effectively impossible. Well, thanks, Paul Tassi. I hope you have a...
So yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? Like, at the end there, he reveals the game, He's saying that it is justified. So, at that point, I do think it's fair to call him, like, retarded, because, like, no. Like, that's the thing, like, I don't think that anybody should be demonetized. And I think that if you're going to have the perspective that these people should be demonetized, then you should write an article with specific examples explaining why. You know what I mean? So, but anyways, I've gone down that diatribe.
Have a great day, and I hope you make another article so I can break that shit down and expose more of your lies and more of your defamatory remarks and slander. Have a great day. And anyone else who thinks that having a voice and having an opinion has to be on the same lines as every other human being. And I'm here to say that I think it is totally acceptable, as long as you are respectful, to dismantle whatever form of media or art that you wish. Why didn't you like it? Why did you think it was shit? Why didn't it resonate with you? At the end of the day, art is created to evoke some sort of emotion from the viewer, and that is subjective. If it made you feel a certain way, type of way, why? And I believe in my YouTube videos, I very respectfully and eloquently discuss that, I'd say for the most part. So, hey, keep conversing out there. Keep talking about what you like and what you don't like. Don't feed into this toxic positivity bullshit. Humans were made to judge things. We are given brains to have a preference about different things. Don't be racist. Don't hurt anybody. Don't be disrespectful. But if you didn't like a piece of art, you're more than entitled to your opinions. And that's all I have to say about this. Hope you guys have a great day. Be respectful out there. Be good.
So yeah, I mean, like at the end of the day, I don't think that anybody should be demonetized necessarily. You know, I mean, unless they actually like straight up break YouTube's terms of service. I mean, if you do that, like, I don't like, it's one of those things where it's like, I might think that a terms of service might be unreasonable, maybe. But like, if you break it, then I don't necessarily feel bad that you get demonetized or something like that. But like, broadly speaking, do I generally speaking just think that that people should be demonetized even if they have some more sketchy opinions about like the Acolyte or whatever? No, I don't think so. So I think like people like Paul Tassi, I think people like Star Wars Explained, people like whatever, the Molly chick, I think all of these people are cringe, and I think that they should just make videos talking about why these people are racist, why they're why they're cringe, why they're homophobic, why they're toxic. Like, just do that. Like, that's, if you actually care about this, then that is what you should do. Trying to like circumvent all of that and trying to like get them demonetized, like, that is just stupid. But at the same time, I just feel like Star Wars Theory just like refuses to be honest about it. Like, he refuses to be honest about the fact that yes, there's a cottage industry of people hating on Disney Star Wars, which that in and of itself, there's nothing wrong with that. Just to be clear. But they not only do that, but they go after the specific people involved. They try to demonize the specific creators involved. And we just need to honestly acknowledge that doing that is going to direct people to harass them. And I guess I'm the only one that is going to sit here and say that there's nothing like that's not demonetizable. That isn't, that those people should be allowed to do that. And that's an unfortunate side effect, but it just is what it is. Like, at the end of the day, you can't hold them like ultra accountable for that. But I just feel like Star Wars Theory is not honest when he talks about this stuff. So that's my thing, right? Like, just acknowledge basic reality and then defend it. That's all I want. Him and, you know, people like Neurotic and Critical Drinker to do. Just be honest about what you're doing and then defend it. That's it. And also stop doing the stupid like Simpsons thing where somebody just like says that, hey, Moses Ingram and John Boyega received racist comments. And then he tries to like dive in front of the bull and be like, well, I'm not a racist. And it's like, they're not talking about you. They're talking about the racist comments that they did receive. So, anyways, let me know what you think in the comments down below. And I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.